And welcome back to the OHIO podcast, everybody. This is a joint podcast with the Big Banter Network with the What's Choppin Podcast with Alec. Alec, how you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing pretty well. Excited for a big game. Thanks for doing this joint episode tonight.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for this one, guys. I'm telling you, dude. So, first off, congratulations, dude, on the season you guys have had. 6-2. I mean, that's surprised a lot of us, you know. I mean, we Greg Schiano's been building this thing, man. Ever since he got back, he's been getting a little bit better, a little bit better. He's got some horses in there now, some pretty exciting players. Aaron and I were just breaking down film. The quarterback is someone that you gotta account for. I mean, he's incredibly athletic. You know, even the games that you like typically would somehow lose, like the Michigan State game. That's a game that a year ago, 2 years ago, you guys don't win that game, despite what's happened to Michigan State, because it's just a game that somehow you find a way to lose, but not this time. Different, completely different makeup in this team. What's happening over there, man, in Piscataway? What's going on? Something in the water? Is there like a bunch of W's floating around you guys are grabbing onto, or some winning juice? What's going on over there, man?
I mean, that's definitely what it feels like right now. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Greg, like you said, Greg Schiano's just been building this, year after year, and it just feels different this year. I mean, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but I said this after the Temple game. Like, this just kind of feels different than other years. They're beating everyone that they have to, which has not been very easy to do in years past, and they're doing it pretty soundly too. Save for Michigan State, but yeah, I mean, like you said, a few years ago, Rutgers would lose that game, but they
Right.
somehow found a way. They kept working, and they just managed to find a way to find a way. That's the saying that I like to use. They found a way to find a way to find a way, for lack of a better term. But I mean, yeah, looking at that Indiana game too, it felt like things could potentially start to slip away a little bit when the offense started to slow down at halftime. But they got the ball out of half and they just worked their way down the field, got a score, and honestly, by that point, it was over. And obviously, you're going to get some lucky breaks like the Jalen Lucas. He just dropped the punt. Um, and then Michigan State just going into an onside kick recovery for some reason in a 3-point game with 8 minutes to go. But you got to capitalize on those, and that's something that Rutgers hasn't done in recent years. So yeah, the vibe is just completely flipped from last year. Last year it was, is Greg Schiano actually the right guy to take this program to the level that he wants it to go, which is obviously the highest level it can be. But now it's, just how high can he take this team? And recruiting's looking up, and the product on the field is really looking up too. And like you said, Gavin Wimsatt, he's taken a step forward. He still has some work to do, but he's really taken a step forward this year.
Yeah. So, if you could describe for those who've not watched a Rutgers game this year, what Gavin has brought to this offense, how would you describe that?
I would say he's brought a dynamic aspect to it because you have to respect him with his legs. Whether it's scrambling out of the pocket when a play breaks down or a designed run, Rutgers runs a lot of those. You really have to look out for him as a threat to run. I mean, he had that 80-yard rushing touchdown off a read option that me personally I've been calling for them to do more of for weeks now because Kyle Monungai has been an absolute wrecking ball in between the tackles and just always moving his legs no matter what, whenever, even if the play's over, he's always moving. So eventually defenses are going to start crashing into the box trying to single him out and try to bring him down with multiple guys because one guy can't do it. So when that happens, Gavin has the opportunity to take it himself after the defense gets suckered into the middle of the box and just get out in space where he is really fast. Like he on his touchdown run against Indiana, he reached 20 miles an hour at his fastest speed. You don't see that from quarterbacks that often. So
No.
he's just brought a completely new aspect of a dynamic rushing threat, while also still being we've had dynamic rushing threats at quarterback, but they just couldn't throw the ball. Gavin, while he like I said he still has work to do on that side of the ball, he's really shown a dual threat ability, and it's really been a huge boost for this offense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The joke here in Columbus, Ohio, when it comes to Kyle McCord, is that we've changed his nickname to Honda McCord because of Maserati Marv. It's Gus Johnson coined Maserati Marv for Marvin Harrison. So we're like, well, if he's a Maserati, our quarterback is a Honda Civic. So we got Honda McCord at quarterback here. Yeah, definitely not a threat to run the football, but obviously Gavin is. What is the weakness of this team so far, or the area that Rutgers needs to improve on the most still?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about, how great Gavin's been this year, how much of a boost he's been to the offense, but it really starts with him throwing the balls where they need to improve on. His accuracy definitely needs to take a step forward. Too often he'll just sail the ball over his receivers' targets when you're relying on, 5'6" Christian Dremel to be your go-to option. Or I don't know if he's exactly 5'6". I could be wrong. I think he's more like 5'8" or 5'9". But either way, that's not a big target to throw to. And granted, he's done a great job of, one of his best attributes is using his body to control the ball in those catch situations. Gavin still needs to improve his accuracy. I mean, yeah, this is the second time this year that he's thrown for under 100 yards. Rutgers has still won by 3 scores. So it's not like he's killing the team with his lack of accuracy or the lack of a dynamic passing game, but it's definitely something that he needs to work on because this team could take the next step forward in their progression, especially over a really difficult month of November, if they can
Yeah.
get that passing attack going.
Yeah, that you're this it's a good thing you guys got them 6 wins when you did. November is brutal for you guys. I was just looking at that. It's us, Iowa, Penn State, and Maryland. Now,
Yep.
I think you're gonna beat Maryland. I think they gave up. I think they have literally just given up. We know their podcast has given up. They've moved on to basketball.
Oh, we
But
know.
yeah. But yeah, I don't foresee Maryland if they're 5-6 going into that game and they have to beat you guys to go to a bowl game. I think you win that game by 2 scores. They've given
Wow.
up. Yeah, I really do. Iowa, that's the other interesting one. I think you can beat Iowa. Um, they have a lame duck offensive coordinator, as we know now, but we've known that the whole season. Uh, all you got to do is literally put up a couple touchdowns. You're probably going to win that football game. So that should be a winnable game. Penn State, Indiana just gave Penn State a whale of a game. So, and we know you're better than Indiana. And then you've got Shiano and Ryan Day who almost came to blows last year. So you definitely got fight in you. We know that, man. One more offensive question, and then I have a defensive question for you. How do you guys plan on actually scoring against this Ohio State defense? They are like legitimately the best defense we've had since 2019, and we're starting to wonder if they're not better as a unit, as a whole, than what we had in 2019.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the biggest question. How can Rutgers score on Ohio State? Because it feels like almost a certainty that Ohio State isn't going, maybe not roll, but they're going to have an effective day. Just because Ohio State always does. I think the closest that Rutgers has ever gotten was the COVID year where they managed to score 28 points almost entirely off of trick plays, and Ohio State still scored
Yes.
50. So it's just a thing that Rutgers just hasn't been able to do. I don't think they've ever had them below 40 points. But yeah, I mean that's going to be the biggest key to the game. Can Rutgers score on Ohio State? I think it's going to be doing what they've always done. It's going to be running the football and setting up Gavin Williamson for easy throws and easy decisions, whether it's with his arm or with his legs. Because Kyle Monungai, I mean, I feel like he's second in the Big Ten in rushing, so I feel like he's almost being underappreciated as one of the better performers in the entire season in the Big Ten because like I said, his running style, it's just you can't ever bring him down with just one guy. The legs always keep moving. And when it gets to, a push the pile situation with offense versus defense, Rutgers usually wins out in those situations. Really, I think the biggest thing stopping Kyle Monungai this year is the officials' whistle blowing the play dead for forward progress. So that's going to be the biggest key is getting that run game going and setting up Gavin Wimsatt for some easy throws because, you're not going to win only by running the ball, especially not against Ohio State. Gavin's going to have to make some big time throws, and he has some good targets. Like I mentioned, Christian Dremel, he's come out of nowhere from being a former walk on, now in his 5th season to becoming Gavin's go to target. You got Jaquay Jackson, who they brought up from D2 as an All American there. He's been a pretty good deep threat. Isaiah Washington in his 6th season, also being after not really having much of a role his first few years, he's kind of broken out as that number 2 guy, at least over the middle of the field and down low. So yeah, it's going to be running the football and setting up Gavin Wimsatt for success in the passing game. That's how you score. And obviously, it's easier said than done because Ohio State's defense has been game wrecking this year at times. So they're going to have to figure it out, and it starts with that run game.
Flipping over to the other side of the ball, um, so breaking down the film, we were pleasantly, and I won't say pleasantly surprised because that makes it sound like we were happy for you, which we are to a degree, but it seemed like you guys are stronger offensively than defensively on film. What's going on? Just youth? Is it you guys replaced some guys on the defensive side, or maybe did we just not see the film correctly in your opinion? Because I felt you guys were stronger offensively than defensively
Were you talking just like the Indiana game or whole season film?
whole season. Just kind of looking at a big picture
Mhm.
from what we saw.
It is very interesting because Rutgers is primarily seen as a defensive first team, and the
Right.
offense is kind of secondary. But like there are certain times on when like you said watching film where it feels like this defense isn't that good, or they're letting up like some chunk drives and all that. So it is very difficult. Well, they're still really high in the rankings. I believe they're eighth in the country right now in total defense, or at least they were last week. It does feel like sometimes they'll like drop the ball and just kind of let up some big chunk drives. The biggest key right now for why they've been so good is because they don't allow any big plays. Like I'm pretty sure that fourth down conversion, 35 yards from Brendan Sorsby, was the longest play they've given up all season. So they've been able to contain the big plays, and that's part of the reason why statistically they've looked really good. While maybe if you watch some of the film, like you said, it may not look as good from a drive by drive perspective. But I also think they're doing a really good job of bending while not breaking because teams can kind of run on them in between the 20s, but it feels like once they get to that red zone, the guys just kind of tighten up a little bit more and are just able to lock in
Well,
and get the stops they need.
That's a Shiano thing. We experienced that ourselves when he was defensive coordinator here in Columbus. Like, yeah, he will allow you to move the football between the 20s, and then when you get in the red zone, they tighten up, and it really shrinks the playbook offensively for you, and because they're so sound. He's very sound in his teaching. So, yeah, just something we noticed. I would say looking at this game from the perspective of the head coaches. You have Shiano, you have Ryan Day. They obviously that moment last year, I think they both kind of realized, okay, that's really not who we are. We're buds, we're both former Urban Meyer, assistant coaches here, so we can in the heat of the moment, the competitive nature came out, and then when it was all said and done, I know they've probably shared a phone call and a laugh about it, but I still think come Saturday that those two guys are going to butt heads, and I mean this as a complete compliment. Shiano doesn't back down from anybody, man. And I think if tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like this team has embraced that. Like the old Rutgers is gone. Like none of these kids care about what Rutgers was under Ash or anybody else. Like this is Shiano's fingerprints all over this team. They have his personality. And come Saturday, they could care less that the team that they're playing against has little Buckeyes on their helmet. They could care less. They're coming out for
Yeah,
blood. Am I assessing this correctly?
I think you're spot on. Like Shiano has completely taken over this program again in a good way. And he always preaches, chop the moment, keep chopping. That's of course his mantra, hence the name of the podcast, of course.
Right.
That's his mantra. Just keep chopping, always chop the moment. You can't look too far ahead or behind. And it really feels like they've just like coaches have their mantras all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. And sometimes it's kind of cheesy or sometimes it just doesn't work. But his guys buy into it because he lives it himself every single day, no matter what. He is New Jersey football. For just he that's just his personality. That's what he's like on and off the field. That's just how he is and how he's built this program back up. And yeah, his guys just buy into it and they live through that mentality. And that's a big reason why they've been so successful this year because they buy into his philosophy and they've just been able to, keep chopping through anything that's come their way.
All right, last question, then I'm going to turn this show over to you. I want you to make a argument for Greg Schiano being the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Uh-oh.
Oop.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh, okay.
The question just floored you.
I know.
No, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can do that. So, looking back just 4 years ago, 2019, you fire Chris Ash 4 games into the year, fresh off a 52-0 loss to Michigan. Rutgers has been the laughing stock of the entire country for years now. And there's almost no hope because they're in a bad situation financially because they had to fire Chris Ash and he still had a lot of buyout money. You had to somehow rebuild in the hardest division in the entire country. You got Ohio State, you got Michigan, you got Michigan State back then, you got Penn State, and Shiano has just done everything he can to completely flip this program around. I mean, Rutgers is now the talk of of a lot of teams is one of the most improved teams in the entire country, and they're in a bowl game before Halloween. I don't know how many people could have said that, and especially how quick the turnaround was from last year to this year. I mean, if we're talking just 2022 to 2023, that you fire your offensive coordinator that you were paying $1 million a year. He was supposed to be this quarterback wizard and Mike Gundy approved guy that's supposed to be an offensive wizard. He got fired because he couldn't move the ball down the field. And then you move over to Kirk Shiraka, who is absolutely a Shiano ball type of guy. Keep the ball in your hands. Don't let them get it. And you're going to run the ball and you're going to take time off the clock. You're going to keep the ball in your hands. And it's worked to perfection pretty much, save for a couple games. So just the turnaround that they have endured, just offensively and defensively, they were already pretty good, but it feels like they've taken a step forward. Even with Tyreen Powell being out for the year with that broken hand at linebacker, he that loss is tough, but he's emphasized next man up. We're going to bring someone up, and we'll see if they can perform, and if they can't, we'll move on to the next guy. So just the way that they have managed to handle a lot of things that's come at them, and the way that they've managed to turn it around just 1 year later, because like I said earlier, this time last year, the question was, when are we going to have that tough conversation? Is Greg Schiano the right guy to turn this program around? And now, like a year later, we're talking like, when's this guy going to get an extension? So just the complete shift in how the program is perceived, not only from when he got here to now, just from last year to now. I think that's why he has been the biggest impact head coach in the Big Ten. And there's definitely some good candidates. I think if Northwestern gets to a bowl game, I think David Braun could get it. I think Luke Fickell's done a good job, so I don't think he'll get much consideration. Matt Rule's done a really good job. So there's a lot of good candidates. But I think, going from complete laughingstock to, getting votes in the top 25 once again for the second week in a row, from there to now, it's something to behold in Piscataway.
I lied. Got one more question. Did did you vote Rutgers in your Big Banter top 25?
I did. I did.
What?
I kept them at 24, 25, like a lot of the AP or the one AP voter was like for the actual AP poll as well. But I think they're I think they're worthy of, at least being in that consideration.
When the Big Banter poll comes out, I want you to find Ohio State. I want you to go all the way over to spot number 25, and you'll see where I put you guys. All right, your show now, buddy.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah, we talked a lot about Rutgers. So I guess now it's time to talk about Ohio State. It feels like a shift in vibes as well because, Rutgers, everything's all good. They're 6-2. They're doing great right now. They're headed to a bowl game. Ohio State, it's like they're undefeated, but they want a little bit more. So I guess first question is a little bit broad. What's the general feeling around, how things have gone this year for Ohio State is?
Are you talking about the fan base or the team?
I guess both. I'll go with both.
Okay. So the team is incredibly optimistic and focused. Um, I say that, and of course, it sounds like Ryan Day's got rabbit ears listening to everybody else when he comes on national television and wants to know where the hell Lou Holtz is at, right? So, which I love, by the way. I think it's great. Our running joke is so like for this week, is there any old people at Rutgers who wants to question Ryan Day? Because that would be great if they would do that. We like angry Ryan Day. Um, no, the team is very focused on a week to week basis. This schedule has been incredibly difficult. Excuse me. We knew going into this season that when you compare Michigan's schedule to ours, it's not even comparable. We've got we had 6 road games this season. Ohio State has not played 6 road games since the 1800s. Okay? Long time, right?
Wow.
Typically, we play 7 home games and 5 road games, and then the next year we'll play 8 home games and 4 road games, meaning those 3 non-conferences are home, and then when we have 5 conference away games, we'll have 3 home games against non-conference, and then when we have 4 conference away games, that's when we'll play a non-conference away game. But that's not how the schedule fell this year. It was 6 and 6, and those away games included uh, South Bend, Indiana. Last week, a night game in Madison, Wisconsin, which I personally feel is the second most difficult atmosphere to play a football game in at night. Followed closely third by probably Kinnick, Iowa. Night game can get you. Um, and I'm counting Ohio State in that as well. I think we're probably fifth or sixth in the conference at a night game. Um, uh, Penn State's number one, hands down, white out, right? Um, but you have that. You've got Penn State, obviously, which is kind of a rivalry game. You have all of those mixed in, and then you have a second road game again, a second road game now to Piscataway. So we go Madison to Piscataway, and you guys are coming off a bye. So all of that is always difficult when you put that into perspective. Maryland was undefeated when we played them, so you get a little bit of street cred with that. But the team is like, look, we're gonna go week by week. We don't even talk about what's happening in Ann Arbor. We don't even look at it. We'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. The fans are like Ohio State Twitter is toxic, man. Like I will not get on social media during a game because if you get on social media during the game, they wanted Kyle McCord benched on the first drive because he threw an interception. And well, who are you going to put in? Our backup quarterback didn't even make the trip because he's hurt. They don't care. Like the fans don't care. Like they expect the next person to be a 5-star. Everything is great, right? So, and then you had the quarterback controversy to start the season. Like, was it going to be McCord? Was it going to be Brown? And the fan base is split 50-50 on that. They really were. So it just depends who you talk to. Now, currently the fan base is all about trolling Michigan because of what's going on there. And so there's a lot of back and forth with our heated rivalry on social media about whether they cheated or they didn't. And so that's where we sit currently, which could be a bad thing, could be a good thing. The players don't talk about it. They are completely focused on Rutgers. They're not even allowing themselves to get involved in that. So it shouldn't matter what happens on the field, but for the fans, oh yeah, that's all they're talking about.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's how it always is with some of these big time programs. The second, even if they don't lose, the second things start to take a little bit of a turn, like a close game here or there, it's just hell on earth.
It is,
But
yeah.
yeah, I guess next up, how do you think the environment will fare for Ohio State? Like you said, they were at Camp Randall last week, moving to Piscataway this week. I, I guess I have a question within a question. Where would you put Rutgers in terms of that, night game type vibe for in the conference?
It's hard for me to judge because I've never been to a Rutgers game. It's on my bucket list. It's coming, right? I mean,
Uh,
we're gonna get there eventually.
I'm
Uh,
pointing above my head because I mean for
yeah.
those who are listening on audio only, it is the commemorative Targum cover of Rutgers fans storming the field after defeating Louisville back in 2006. That's
How
really a testament to just
how
how
old were
like
how old were
crazy.
you in 2006, Alec?
I was 5 years old, so I told it to my dad,
Were
who
you
was
on your
at the
dad's
game.
sh- were you on your dad's shoulder on the field? Yay! Little Alex all excited. He's somewhere in that crowd.
Oh, I wish I was unfortunately at home with my
Oh,
grandparents.
okay.
That would have been awesome to be at though, but I feel like yeah, Rutgers fans have been waiting for this
How
type of day to
about
come
how
again.
about I'm old enough that I was in I know I had just graduated college. That was the year after I graduated college when that happened. That's how old I am. I remember that. So I don't know. I guess it's an unfair question to be honest with you because if you look at it during the Ash era, I mean, can you even really compare it to anything? Like
Right.
that's so unfair. But yeah, you look at it when Shiano had you guys rolling when in the now defunct Big East, that was a tough place to play, man. So we'll see. We'll see what with the removal of divisions. I think that helps you guys. I also think that could set up to where maybe later in the season you could have a big night game, primetime game when you're like you get to near the end of the year and you're 7-1 or 8-2 and you got a big game and you're fighting for possibility of getting to a Big Ten championship, depending on the schedule and who you've played and maybe you've had an upset or two. It could change a lot. If Shiano keeps building this thing, he's going to pass Maryland. He's definitely already passed Michigan State. The West is interesting. Like I said, I think you're going to compete with Iowa already. Like right now in my big banter rankings, I got you guys at fourth.
I do too, but maybe that's just a little bit of homerism for me. But yeah, I mean,
Well, I want to make sure that I get a good. If we get a win, I want to make that win count. So I got to boost you up there. But I mean, no. I mean, think about it. Like you've earned that. You guys have earned to be in the top echelon of this conference right now. So give it a few years. Let's see what happens.
yeah, definitely. I guess looking back more towards on the field for this weekend, it feels like the easy answer is Marvin Harrison. But other than him, where do you think Ohio State has the biggest matchup advantage against Rutgers?
I'd go to the defensive side of the ball. Is what I would say. Our secondary is playing lights out right now. I think if you guys are going to make this a game, then your quarterback's going to have to do it with his legs. We have not played a true dual quarterback yet, and that has been the one Achilles in the past for us is that quarterback who can make things happen with his legs. So we'll see. We'll see how this defense reacts to that. We were just talking about this before he came on. I have a feeling that Sonny Styles, which is kind of our in-box safety, nickel safety, and linebacker Steel Chambers, who's the more athletic or faster of the two linebackers, they're going to be spying him at different points of the game, one or the other. So we'll see if we can contain that. But I feel you're going to have difficult time passing the football against the secondary. They have been islands, man, and they're physical, and no one's open. Like the quarterback will be sitting there, who do I throw to? And then next thing you know, he's running for his life because JTT's chasing him. And our defensive tackles probably is the greatest strength we have. No one's been able to block them yet. You've got Michael Hall Jr. and Tyleik Williams. Tyleik Williams is getting recognized on Big Banter for Defensive Player of the Year. Again, his stats reflect that. Like he has defensive end stats from the tackle position. He's supposed to just be clogging up the line, and he's just eating up guards and centers this year. So that would probably be an advantage. That would be very interesting if you guys try to run through the heart of our defense. What happens there? Because that's like the immovable object meets the brick wall. There's going to be a lot of collisions happening in the middle of that field, which is old school Big Ten football. So if you're an old school Big Ten football fan, that's what you need to watch. The read option scares me because I think if we bite, you could get out around the edge and make something happen. Again, quarterback. But we'll see about the safeties. I just think you're going to find it difficult to throw the football.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because for the longest time, we talked about this earlier. Rutgers, Ohio State's always been how many points is Ohio State going to put up on Rutgers, and how quickly are they going to put that game?
It's
going
to be a low scoring game, dude. Like I've been trying to warn everybody. This is going to feel like Wisconsin. Like there was a lot of people who were like, dude, this isn't good. Like this is what that's going to feel like. I really don't think that we're going to come in there and put up 40, 50 points. We haven't really done that all year, number one. Number two, Rutgers got, it's Shiano. Like he's a good coach, right? And I just don't. I feel like this is gonna be a one score, two score game. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, the spread right now is at, I believe it's 18 and a half.
Eight,
And
yeah.
yeah,
And
and the total
I'm
points,
ready to take the under. I really am. Yeah.
the total points is about 41. So I guess with the math I'm doing in my head, Vegas predicts the score to be about 30-11. So I guess with that, you said you're going to take the under. Are you taking? Are you also? It seems like the Rutgers spreads become kind of a cult following in college football this year because they are, I believe, 7-1 or 6-1, depending on who you talk to. Are you taking Rutgers spread this weekend?
Probably. I probably will. Like, so here's a little trick about Vegas and Ohio State. They love Ohio State money, and they know that Ohio State fans are a cult. so so they always set that bar just a little bit higher to try to get us to be suckers and take the over, right? I feel like I want to say the last time I looked at the numbers, 65% of the time Ohio State's under the spread. Now a lot of times that number's way up there, so it's like they're trying to bait you into it. Um, so yeah, I'm probably gonna take the under.
All right. Yeah, I'm probably going to do the same. Honestly, I am of legal age, of course. Good thing. Um, but I guess we kind of danced around Marvin Harrison a little bit, but
Yeah,
how do you cover him?
you
Whether
don't.
it's with one guy, or you hope to just contain him with two guys.
So here's
How
a
do
little
you
yeah, here's
yeah
a
how do you
secret.
do
So
it?
he's not human, number one. So Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison had a science project when they were teammates for the Colts in Indianapolis, and they made a test tube baby, and this is the product. Okay, they just put a nice little name on him and said, "Oh, Marv, we'll give you the junior. Okay, you can raise him. Let your wife love on him. He's not human, dude. The dude is not a human being. The way his body contorts at times, and the somehow the ability to get a foot down when it's like there's no way that should like happen is just unbelievable. His body control in the air, um I kid you not, this is my comparison. If Michael Jordan, his body control in the air was given to Jerry Rice's ability, that is who this kid is. Now that is a ungodly comparison, right? Like, come on, like what are you? I have never in my life. I've watched a lot of college football. The closest thing I saw with my own two eyes was Randy Moss, and the difference was is Randy Moss was doing it in Division One AA at the time at Marshall. They weren't even a Division One team yet until his last year, I think, and even then they didn't really play anybody. So it was hard to get like it's hard to compare that, right? Because Marv's doing it against some of the best teams in college football today. But that's the closest comparison in college football I can give you is he was Randy Moss and maybe better.
Wow, that's definitely some high praise, and I am terrified for this weekend.
Yeah.
But
So I mean, come on, look at the talent we have produced in the last 10 years at that position, starting with Michael Thomas, right? And you just go down Paris Campbell, just go down the list of all these guys in the NFL, Curtis Samuel, and then you get recently Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith, and the Jigba, all of these guys, right? And Marvin blows them all out of the water.
wow,
I mean,
I
he
mean,
just
yeah, it's not, and I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba put up about 350 yards in a Rose Bowl against a pretty darn good defense too.
yeah,
That's really saying something. And I'm a Seahawks fan, so I'm loving JSN right now. So
good
thank
for
you
you.
for putting that guy
Yeah.
together.
I'm glad he's
But
healthy, man. I
yeah,
really am. I'm glad he's healthy. So funny story. I know Jackson's dad personally. I got to interview him on the podcast, and met him in person. Great dude, very nice, humble human being. That is a one athletic family. So his brother played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, in the major leagues, and his dad could probably suit up today and play a little ball himself. So that is one athletic family. You guys, and he's a great kid. That's what's he's not going to give you any problems off the field. I promise you.
No, I'm glad about that. So I got one more question, then we can move into some of our score predictions for this weekend.
Sure.
Looking back to more some of the big picture, if Rutgers somehow comes out and wins this game this weekend, do you think a little something starts to heat up, especially if there's a loss to Michigan under Ryan Day's seat?
Oh my gosh. If we were to lose this game, Alec, there would be people with pitchforks and shovels and fires outside of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center ready to absolutely annihilate Ryan Day.
I feel like
This
there's
is
already people like that now.
Yeah, because he's lost 2 times in a row to Team Up North. So Chris, my co-host, he's already buried. He's already dug his grave. Like he's ready to throw him in and throw dirt on him if he doesn't win this year. So yeah, that would not only be a huge upset and a career defining moment for Shiano and his second tenure at Rutgers, but that would derail the entire season for Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I once again pointed to this thing up here because it would almost be a repeat of it. But I did forget one thing. So last weekend, my friends and I were part of the student section called the Riot Squad here at Rutgers.
Okay.
We took a road trip out to Indiana for that game. Great trip. Driving, I will say, no offense, but driving through Ohio was what's the word? Debilitating. It was terrible. We took I-70 all throughout. It
Oh,
was
that is a
awful. Yeah,
horrid. That is the
yeah.
worst freeway in the entire state. The
Oh, it
worst.
was awful. It was awful. But I will say there was one thing that was really cool. We ended up we had like a spare hour or so. So we decided, hey, let's go off on this random city off I-70 and check out the horseshoe, just because why not? So we spent about like an hour in Columbus. We ended up going into the Pat McAfee show filming. That was really awesome. And
Cool.
what I did not expect walking up to the horseshoe was looking at all like the signage. Is this all year that the M's are all crossed out? Is this like 365 days a year?
It didn't used to be, but in the last couple of years, it's become that. The level of disdain and hatred this state and this fan base has for Jim Harbaugh and that team right now has reached unhealthy levels. It is, you see a lot of the fighting that takes place on NFL games, and it's like, you drunk idiots, like, get a hold of yourselves, right? Um, there's going to be a lot of that this year. I really feel like I'm going to the game. I'm going with a Michigan friend of mine because I lost a bet and told him if they won last year, I would pay for our tickets to go to the game. And of course we lost, so now I owe him that. Um, I'm fully expecting to come out of that place if we lose again, not only depressed, but probably watching several of my fellow Ohio State fans get in fights because this has reached a level that even let me share your story. I'll share a quick story with you. So this is how I was indoctrinated into this fan base. I was in second grade, and my teacher was a Michigan fan, and she was rather cute. And I came home, and I told my dad I was going to root for Michigan, and this was Michigan Ohio State week. And my dad told me to pack my bags and get out of the house. So I packed my bags. My mom packed me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I made it down to the mailbox, and I turned around, came back crying, told my dad I would never root for Michigan, and I was allowed to live in my parents' house for the remainder of my childhood. Um, you don't have an option here. Like if you are going to live in this state and you are raised by Buckeye fans, you're expected to be a part of this religion. All right, this is what I'm talking about when I say we're a cult. It really is. It's scary. Um, yeah, this is war. In fact, they literally play that rap song. It's time for war when we play that team all over the
Wow.
place. So yeah, it's reached pandemic levels here in Columbus, Ohio. That letter.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, I will say from being in Columbus for like an hour, it was great place to just kind of walk around the camp. We all really only strayed from the shoe to where they were recording the show, but we drove through it. Very nice. Thumbs up from me, from
Cool.
this New Jersey guy. But yeah, that was my experience in Columbus for an hour. Also,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad we're
Come.
both in agreement that I-70 just sucks.
Oh, it's terrible. It's bad.
Yeah, it was awful.
You need to
Oh,
come. You need to come back when you guys play Ohio State. Come to a game day
I
experience.
I would love to.
It's the closest thing you're gonna get here in the North to the SEC, as far as the tailgating, the size of the crowd. Um, I've been to quite a few of the other Big Ten schools. Nothing compares to the game day experience. I've not been to Ann Arbor. This will be my first trip to Ann Arbor for that game, so I will refrain from that. I don't a lot of, again, Penn State atmosphere and the whiteout can't compare to it. But game day experience outside of the stadium and everything that goes with it, Ohio State's so much better. So there's so much to do on game day. You could spend from sun up to sundown. If they play a noon or 3 o'clock game, it doesn't matter. You'll be there all day. You'll have a great time.
I will say before we get to our predictions, if you ever get a chance, definitely come to Piscataway because we have the boardwalk on the street that goes from two of the parking lots to the stadium itself. There's a whole boardwalk like Jersey Shore style. You know, you got games, you
Yeah.
even got a
Okay.
Ferris wheel. I won't touch the Ferris wheel because I don't really want to get on a Ferris wheel that was built in a day and taken down in a day.
Ooh.
Yeah, no thanks. But I mean, the whole experience is great. Highly recommend it if you ever get a chance. But we can talk some of our predictions for this weekend. I guess I'll go first. So here's the thing. I want to shock the world and call for a Rutgers upset, but unfortunately, I
Oh,
just don't
come
think it'll
on,
happen.
Alec. You can do it.
Uh, I want to say that they're going to shock the world. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to say they're going to shock the world.
There
I'm going
it
to say it
is.
right here. I'm going to say that, you know what? This is like the fifth time that I pointed to this. It just feels right. It just feels like this is the right time. This is going to be the Louisville moment. We've been saying all year it feels like 2005. This weekend's going to make it feel like 2006. I think Rutgers does just enough. They're going to shut down Kyle McCord. They're going to do enough with the run game. Kyle Monunga is going to have another great game. I'm going to say Rutgers 24, Ohio State 21. I will be storming the field and I will be placing a goalpost in the Raritan River come Saturday afternoon.
I expect that to happen. If you guys were upset, the goalposts gotta go, man. They gotta go. I'm at Ohio State 27, Rutgers 13.
I think that's fair. Now, I
I
think that would be a fair level headed prediction, unlike mine.
I love your enthusiasm though, Alec. There you go, man. You got to defend your team, right? You got to defend them. I have not voted since we've done this podcast. Only one time, only one time have I said Ohio State was going to lose, and they did lose that game. And I've regretted it ever since because I'm like, you know what? Come on, man. I'm hosting a Ohio State podcast. I'm allowed to be a homer. So I don't foresee myself, even though right now it's tough for me to see how we are going to be able to defeat that team up north if they keep clicking like the way they have been. But I do think all the people who think they're going to blow us out are going to be in for a rude awakening. I think that game is going to be an old school Woody Bow, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, first team to maybe get a touchdown type of game. Is how I foresee that one going down. So be very, very interesting when we get there. But we got to get through Rutgers first. 27-13 Buckeyes this Saturday.
All right. Well, yeah, a lot of great talks here, a lot of great stories, a lot of great previews, and some great predictions too. Eric, thanks for coming on, and thank you for having me on to do this joint episode between the Ohio. The is it the Ohio or the OHIO?
Okay, funny story. So we got sued by Ohio State.
Oh, jeez.
It was the OH apostrophe exclamation point IO exclamation point because that's what Ohio State fans do. They yell out OH and someone answers IO, and Ohio State said Can't do that. So we just called it the OHIO podcast. We spelled out our state name and say, there you go. So you can call us either one. They can't take away that. I do own the rights to that. So the Ohio or the OHIO podcast, we go by both. Alec, man, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find the What's Choppin' podcast at?
Yeah, so What's Choppin' Podcast on all podcast platforms at Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. And then you can find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at What's Choppin' Pod. And then you can find me at AlexCR12 on Twitter. You'll see a lot of Rutgers things, probably some unhinged Rutgers things, maybe some Seahawks things mixed in between if you're into that. So definitely follow if you're interested in that kind of thing. And where can we find the OHIO podcast and you,
all the
Eric?
same place, man. Anywhere you want to find your audio, you can find us. Just type in the Ohio podcast. Do the same on YouTube. At Twitter, we're at the Ohio Pod. And so we're always doing the same thing, dropping Ohio State nuggets there. And of course, you can find us both on the BigBanterSports.com network. So head on over to BigBanterSports.com. There's us, and there's 12 other podcasts. A couple of them are good. One of them from Maryland's really, really bad. I wouldn't suggest listening to that one. They talk about weird things like the Orioles and the Ravens, and it's like I don't even know what those are. All I care about is college football. But if you're into that kind of thing and you want to learn about what it's like to be a poor man's Duke, you could listen to the Turtleheads, I guess. Based on those numbers, not too many of them are though. But hey. Yeah, you can find me at theohiopodcast.com if you'd like to email me. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. We really did, Alec. I really did appreciate it, man. Enjoy the game this weekend. All right.
Oh, I will. It'll be fun. Either way, it'll be fun.
If you guys happen to win, I expect to see you on CBS tearing down a goalpost. All right, I'm gonna be looking.
Oh, trust me. The Big Banter Slack will go absolutely nuts with pictures and videos of me holding a goalpost, putting it in the Raritan River. Just you can bank on that.
All right, man. Sounds good, everybody. Thank you so much.